She said she was a U.S. Army general. They cuffed her anyway. What happened next destroyed 2 careers and sent shockwaves through an entire police department. It all unfolded in less than 2 minutes, but the consequences lasted far longer than anyone expected. General Angela Whitford had parked her car on the 3rd level of the Madison Tower garage, just off Clarendon Boulevard in Arlington. She had just finished a classified briefing at the Department of Defense Annex, building across the street. Rain still clung to the hood of her black SUV as she reached into her coat pocket for her keys. Her face showed fatigue, not weakness, but the quiet exhaustion of someone who had just carried the weight of national security for hours. Her mind was still replaying the final moments of the strategy session she had led only minutes earlier. Then she heard footsteps, fast, heavy, echoing off concrete, hands where I can see them. The voice came from behind her. Sharp, commanding, not a request. Angela turned slowly. 2 uniformed police officers were advancing toward her. Their guns were drawn. Flashlights were aimed directly into her face. One officer was tall, red-faced, jaw tight with confidence. The other was younger, thinner, with a nervous twitch pulling at his mouth. "Ma'am, step away from the vehicle." The younger officer shouted. Angela raised both hands calmly. She did not rush. She did not argue. "Officers, I am reaching for my keys," she said evenly. "Don't move." The taller officer snapped. "We got a call about a suspicious individual tampering with cars. You match the description." Angela blinked once. "I am walking to my own vehicle. My name is General Angela Whitford. I just came from a briefing across the street." Back against the wall, now. There was no pause, no moment of reflection, no attempt to confirm what she had just said. They did not ask for identification. They did not ask her to explain. They acted. The taller officer rushed forward, grabbed her wrist, and twisted her arm behind her back. Her laptop bag slipped from her shoulder and hit the concrete with a dull thud. Her military-issued ring scraped against the rough surface of a concrete pillar as her other arm was yanked back hard. Pain flashed through her shoulder. She winced but did not cry out. "Is this really happening?" she asked quietly, more to herself than to them. Cold concrete pressed against her cheek as metal cuffs snapped tight around her wrists. She did not resist. She did not shout. She stood still as the restraints locked into place. From her coat pocket, her identification card slid free and landed near the officer's boot. Her name was printed clearly. Her rank was unmistakable. A Pentagon clearance barcode reflected the flashlight beam. The officer never looked down. Angela inhaled slowly. "Sir, I am a United States Army general. I am not armed. I am not resisting. You need to stop and verify who I am. Save it." The younger officer muttered, "People like you think you can talk your way out of anything." That stopped her. "People like me?" Angela asked calmly as she turned her head slightly to look at him. "What exactly do you mean by that?" He did not answer. The taller officer picked up her laptop bag and began unzipping it. "What's this?" he said. "Some kind of encrypted device." "It is my secured military laptop." Angela replied. "It is serial tagged. The barcode is inside the inner flap." They did not check. They kept digging, poking, treating the equipment like evidence from a crime they had already decided she committed. Angela stayed still, but something inside her cracked. Not fear, not panic. It was the sharp clarity of understanding exactly why this was happening. "This is not a misunderstanding," she said calmly. "This is a mistake with real consequences." The younger officer scoffed. "Lady, you are not in a position to give warnings." Angela said nothing. She did not argue. She did not plead. Instead, she shifted her wrist slightly inside the cuffs and pressed a small recessed button on her smartwatch. 1 second, 2 seconds, a soft vibration confirmed it. A secure alert had been sent. Real-time, encrypted, direct to the Joint Command Liaison Office inside the Pentagon Communications Wing. Her identity, her location, everything. Someone was listening now. "You have less than 10 minutes," Angela said quietly, "to figure out who I am." The taller officer narrowed his eyes. "Excuse me," I said. She repeated, "You have 10 minutes before this parking garage becomes very crowded." They ignored her. They kept searching through her bag, convinced they still controlled the situation. To understand how wrong they were, you have to understand who Angela Whitford really is. Not just a name on a badge, not just a rank. Angela grew up on the dirt roads of Mount Bayou, Mississippi, a small town her grandfather used to call Black Wall Street without the cameras. Her childhood home had creaky floors and a refrigerator covered in honor roll certificates. Her mother worked long shifts as a nurse. Her father fixed air conditioners and prayed every night that none of his children would ever have to wear a uniform unless they chose that path themselves. Angela chose it. She saw a world ruled by systems and unfair rules, and she wanted to understand those systems better than anyone else. Rot got her out of Mississippi. From Jackson State to Fort Benning, her career moved fast. She was sharp, strategic, fluent in 2 languages. She never asked anyone to lower the bar because she was a woman. She never asked for sympathy because she was black. By 38, she had led operations across 4 continents. By 45, she was briefing presidents. She had been deployed, decorated, tested, but none of that armor stopped people from seeing only what they wanted to see. Earlier that morning, she had led a closed-door cyber threat briefing at the Pentagon's Arlington Annex. She was one of only 3 generals in the room, the only black person there. She wore full uniform for the meeting. Afterward, she changed into a hoodie and slacks. She did not need attention. She just wanted to get to her car and call her driver. In that garage, none of it mattered. They did not see a general, they saw a threat. And the truth was, Angela was not even surprised. She had seen this play out too many times before. Neighbors, friends, soldiers who served honorably but did not look like they belonged. She never thought it would be her, not here, not this close to the building where she held active security clearance. Still, her mind stayed sharp. Calculating, observing, how far was the dispatch center? Were these Arlington PD officers or private security? How long before the Pentagon alert was acknowledged? Which direction were the ceiling cameras facing? This was not just survival. This was strategy. Her watch blinked green. Help was on the way. The taller officer smirked. "What's a woman like you doing down here anyway? You casing vehicles? You should stop talking," Angela said calmly. "Oh, is that a threat?" He laughed. "No," she replied. "It is advice. You are going to regret every word." He tightened the cuffs. Sergeant Blake Maddox had been on the force for 15 years. He hated being corrected. Especially by women who challenged his assumptions. His partner, Officer Trevor Lang, was newer, nervous, eager to prove himself. They were responding to a vague call. A woman reported someone suspicious in the garage. No details, no urgency, just fear and assumption. When they arrived and saw Angela alone next to a black SUV, they skipped questions, drew weapons, trusted their gut. "Let's run the plates," Lang muttered. Maddox waved him off. "If she's lying, she'll mess up. They always do." Angela turned her head slightly. "You know what always trips people up," she said. "Body cameras." Lang hesitated. "Sarge, are our cams on?" Maddox shot him a look. "Of course they are. Good," Angela said. "Then your department audio will be included with the Pentagon report." Lang froze. Did she just say the Pentagon? Maddox laughed, but slower this time. Angela remained silent. Then footsteps echoed across the garage, sharp, controlled. 3 men in suits appeared, moving fast. Behind them, 2 military police officers flanked a dark vehicle. Angela exhaled quietly. Took them long enough. Lang's face drained of color. One man raised a badge. "Special Agent Colin Reed, Department of Defense. Step away from the detainee immediately." Lang stumbled backward. Maddox did not move. Angela's cuffs were removed. "Ma'am, are you injured?" Reed asked. "Not physically," she replied. Maddox stood frozen. He had not yet realized just how badly he had failed. Angela flexed her wrist slowly as the cuffs came off. Red marks circled her skin where the metal had pressed into bone. She did not complain. She did not raise her voice. She simply stood there, breathing evenly, eyes fixed on Sergeant Maddox. He still had not moved. He looked like a man trying to understand how the ground had vanished beneath his feet. Special Agent Reed turned toward the officers. Did she resist in any way? Lang shook his head fast. No, sir. Did she raise her voice, threaten you, act aggressively? No, sir. Did she identify herself? Lang hesitated, then nodded. Yes, she said she was a general. Reed's jaw tightened. And you did not verify that before placing her in restraints? Lang looked down. Maddox said nothing. Angela finally spoke. Her voice was steady. It was never about verification, it was about control. Reed nodded once. Garage surveillance is already being pulled. The Pentagon received your alert. Everything is being logged. 2 military police officers retrieved her laptop and phone from the ground. I want a full chain of custody, Angela said. Fingerprints, radio traffic, body cam audio, timestamps, everything. You will have it, Reed replied. A JG officer is already en route. Maddox swallowed hard. This is some kind of mistake. Angela looked directly at him. You are right. It is a mistake, and it will cost you your career. Reed motioned toward the far end of the garage. We are escorting General Whitford to the command vehicle. Officers, remain here until Internal Affairs arrives. Lang's voice cracked. We are being investigated. You are being documented. Reed said, what happens next depends on the evidence. Angela walked past them without another word. She did not look back. Inside the unmarked vehicle, a young communications officer handed her a secure phone. Joint Command is on the line, ma'am. This is General Whitford, Angela said calmly. We have an incident. We are aware, the voice replied. Body cam footage and the original call have been reviewed. The reporting civilian was mistaken. The officer's actions are under separate review. I want a full debrief routed through legal, Angela said. I do not want apologies, I want protocol. Understood, General. She ended the call and leaned back in the seat. Rain tapped lightly against the windshield. Take me home, she said. Yes, ma'am. When she arrived at her townhouse in McLean, the rain had stopped, but the air still felt heavy. She stepped inside, set her coat down, poured a glass of water, and opened her secure laptop. A preliminary report from the Office of Military Justice was already waiting. 10 minutes later, her phone rang. Angela, the voice said. It was Brigadier General Carson Blake. Press inquiries are already coming in. Someone leaked that 2 local officers detained a high-ranking Army official. Let them, Angela replied. You filing a complaint? No, the Pentagon will handle it. Blake paused. You sure? I am not interested in noise. I want consequences. Understood, he said. You have our full support. Across town, Maddox and Lang sat in a bright interview room at the Arlington precinct. A woman in a gray suit entered carrying a thick file. I am Captain Ivan Delgado, she said. Internal Affairs. Do either of you want to explain why you ignored direct identification from a federal official? Lang leaned forward. She did not look like one. She had a hoodie on. Delgado flipped a page. She stated her name and rank. She remained compliant. She offered identification. Maddox clenched his jaw. She was standing next to a black SUV. That is not probable cause, Delgado replied. You are making this about race, Maddox snapped. I am not, Delgado said calmly. The video is. He said nothing. Within 24 hours, the Pentagon issued a formal notice to Arlington PD leadership. The report was precise, every second accounted for, no resistance, no aggression, only officers ignoring protocol. By Wednesday morning, both officers were placed on administrative leave. That afternoon, the police chief held a press conference confirming cooperation with federal investigators. Lang cried alone in his garage that night. His wife was pregnant. He told himself he had not meant harm. He just did not speak up. Maddox stayed defiant. told family it was overblown, said people played the race card, but no one defended him after watching the footage. Angela released a statement the next day, 6 sentences. I did not ask for special treatment. I asked to be seen. I complied and was still restrained. This is not just about me. It is about those who never get the chance to be heard. The statement went viral within hours, not because it was loud, but because it was controlled, calm, precise. By the end of the week, Internal Affairs made their recommendation. Maddox was terminated. Lang resigned. Angela did not celebrate. She sat quietly on her patio with coffee and watched the trees move in the wind. Later, a letter arrived. No return address. I failed to act. It read, I froze. I followed when I should have questioned. I did not see you. I am sorry. Trevor Lang. Angela folded it carefully and placed it in a drawer beside old service pins and a photo of her father. That weekend, she spoke to a group of young cadets. Your title may come later, she told them. But your skin arrives first. Decide now how you will respond. A young woman asked if she had been scared. Yes, Angela said, but not for myself. I was scared that panic would confirm the lies they already believed. She declined public speaking offers. She wrote quietly, worked with lawmakers, focused on policy. Arlington PD changed procedures, training was updated, oversight expanded. Weeks later, Angela returned to the same garage, same spot, same camera overhead. She stood there for a moment, then took a photo, not for evidence, for herself. That place was not where she was defined. It was where she refused to be erased. Angela did not stay in the garage long that night. She stood there only long enough to let the silence settle. No sirens, no shouting, no commands, just the low hum of the building and the distant sound of traffic moving like nothing had ever happened. She put her phone away, walked back to her vehicle, and drove off without looking over her shoulder. At home later that evening, she opened her journal for the first time in months. She did not write often. Most of her thoughts lived in briefings, reports, and quiet decisions made under pressure, but that night felt different. She wrote slowly, choosing each word with care. I did everything right. I followed protocol. I served. I earned rank, and still I was not seen, but I saw them, and I will remember. She closed the journal and placed it back in the drawer. The following week moved fast. Meetings stacked on top of meetings, early mornings, late nights, overseas calls that could not wait for personal reflection. Angela returned to work as she always had, focused, precise, unshaken on the surface. But the faint marks on her wrists had not fully faded. She did not hide them. News coverage continued to grow. Analysts broke down the footage frame by frame. Commentators argued. Some defended the officers. Others asked uncomfortable questions. What stood out most was not what Angela said, but what she did not say. She never raised her voice, never insulted, never demanded attention. That silence made people listen. Service members shared stories, civilians shared memories, parents shared fears. The garage became a symbol of something much larger than one mistake. It became proof of how quickly authority can become assumption. At the Arlington Police Department, new recruits were shown the footage during training, not as punishment, as instruction. The dispatcher call was played in full, the hesitation, the lack of detail. The assumptions made in seconds that changed lives. No one said Angela's name during those sessions. They did not need to. One afternoon, Angela received an invitation to speak at a national civil rights conference. She read it once, then declined. She sent a short reply, when policy changes, call me. Behind the scenes, she worked with legislators, quiet meetings, no cameras, no applause. She reviewed drafts, suggested revisions, asked difficult questions, demanded accountability measures that could not be ignored. Progress did not come fast, but it came. Months later, Angela attended a closed-door review at the Pentagon. New training frameworks were approved. Cross-agency verification procedures were tightened. Federal and local coordination protocols were updated. When the meeting ended, someone thanked her for her leadership. Angela nodded. That was all. One evening after another long day, she sat alone on her back patio as the sun dropped behind the trees. The world was quiet, the kind of quiet that lets thoughts catch up. She thought about her father. About the prayer he used to say every night, about how he hoped his children would never be forced to prove their worth to anyone. Her phone buzzed once, a message from a young cadet she had spoken to weeks earlier. "I remembered what you said. I held the line today." Angela smiled faintly and placed the phone face down. She knew the truth. Power was not always loud. Strength did not always announce itself. Sometimes dignity was simply refusing to become what others expected you to be under pressure. Angela never sued, never sold her story, never chased validation. But the policies changed, the training changed. The silence after the headlines mattered more than the noise before them. And somewhere in a parking garage in Arlington, a camera still watched an empty space where a woman once stood calm, restrained and unseen, until she was not. The next Angela might not have a smartwatch, might not have clearance, might not have time. That was the lesson, and it was enough.